Awesome. All right. So where we're picking up today is on page 78, unless Rob tells me otherwise. Okay, good. And so what we're diving into is actually what David and I were talking about on Friday. We're talking about the different varieties of amends that we might owe. Now, so we're going to be on 78, second full paragraph. But before we do that, because I was out of town last week, I was on my tablet and I didn't have a lot of the screen share capabilities that I absolutely abuse for the announcements portion. What I thought was I would do, and I promise. So listen, I'm not going to lie to you. So what I'll do is I'll kick it off with a little bit of quick review about the process that I go through for amends. Now, this is the process that we spoke about quite heavily last week. So I'm just going to be zooming through it. So this is screen share. This is step 9. So for me, it's a 4-step process. The first step is the approach. I've got to reach out to the person or the institution that I owe an amends to. So find them on Facebook, find them on Instagram. LinkedIn is, you find them a lot on there for some reason. Text, email, call to book the approach. And what I'm trying to do is book the appointment and explain what the appointment is. Explain what the amends is. And you can do it however you want to do it, whatever way seems to work for you, but these are some words that I find to be quite helpful. One of which is to say, I'm reaching out to you today because I'm a member of a 12-step fellowship. And part of me staying well requires that I reflect upon my life, and in so doing, it became evident that I caused you harm. I would like it if you would allow me the opportunity to make it right, to sit down with you, to discuss it, and to make it right. Do you have to tell them you're in a 12-step fellowship? No, because that's not a hill that I'm going to die on. But so you could just say, listen, I've been reflecting upon my life. And in so doing, I can see that I caused a lot of harm to you and harm to our relationship. I would like to book, if you would allow me even just 10 minutes of your time where we can sit down and I can do my best to make it right. So that's what I'm going to do in the approach. Now, before I get to the amends, what I do with my sponsees is I sit down and I help them write out the amends. So part 2 of the amends is what I did. What am I amending? But here's the kicker. I want to be specific when appropriate, when applicable, and what I need to focus on is my defects of character. So I want to list, if it's appropriate, the specific harm and what my defects were. Because it shows that I'm acknowledging the harm, and that it's not just like, yeah, and then I did that to you. It's really showing that that full process of reflection. When I did not show up to your wedding, that was selfish, that was dishonest, that was inconsiderate. It was a betrayal of your trust because I promised you that I would be there and I would show up. That's what I mean. So I want to be specific when applicable and focus on my defects of character. Then, once I've done that, what I want to do is I want to ask, is there any other way in which I've harmed you? And the biggest thing about this is I want to listen. Whatever that they are sharing with me is their experience. It's not the time to debate or debate you, but you. What I want to do is listen. Is there any other way that I've harmed you? Now, how I like to sort of verbalize or articulate this is that idea that, when I'm at this part of the amends, to say, I want to acknowledge that there might have been ways in which I caused you harm that I missed, or there might be things that I left off. And I would like to give you the opportunity, if you would allow me, to share those with me now. Or if you want to share with me how my actions made you feel. And the biggest thing is to listen. Now, this is the 4th part. I ask, what can I do to make it right? And then I do it. I do it. That is how I make the amends. So that's just a quick overview, glossing through. That's what we're doing there. So, all right. So page 78, paragraph 2, most alcoholics owe money. And as I was doing on Friday, what? Most alcoholics owe money? Are you trying to insinuate, Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, that as an alcoholic, or whatever brings you to this all inclusive study, that I am somehow fiscally irresponsible and perhaps spent all of my money on booze, drugs, or whatever brings you here? What? Yeah, yeah. What? I am shocked. And so here's the thing. I kind of use humor to talk about it, to emphasize it. But at this part of the book, we're driving home specific types of amends. How do I amend specific harms? Now, back in those early days, they were scraping together money to try to write this book. They were trying to sell shares of Works Publishing, and they did not have money. So they weren't doing a whole lot of filler words. Now, some of y'all might be like, listen, I bristle with antagonism. You're saying they didn't have filler words, girl? But they did not have room and time to spare on things that were not applicable to the vast majority of people like us. And so if you're here today and you're like, yeah, I've got financial troubles, or you're here today and we get into the next section, which who knows, it's me, depending on how we do for time, which will be criminal offenses. And I know, you law-abiding alcoholics and drug addicts and codependents and whatever brings you here today, you guys would never, but this little criminal over here, maybe a time or two, stepped out of the loose boundaries that are known as the law. Just, loose guidelines. It's like budgeting with vibes, it's vibes. So stepped out of the bounds of that a time or two. And then we look at relationships, and struggles with relationships are, yeah, you're not alone if that's your experience. If your experience is that you're struggling in your romantic relationships, especially after getting sober, and we're going to look at how do we make amends if we've committed infidelity, and how do we make amends if maybe we haven't committed infidelity, but we've still caused a lot of harm. So that's what we're doing. We're focusing on these specific types of amends. So most alcoholics owe money? Shocking. This is news to me. This is a direction. We do not dodge our creditors. Now listen, this takes me back to the fourth grade, and I want to play dodgeball. My mom always reminds me she was the fourth grade dodgeball champion of her class, which, go mom. But I want to dodge, if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a car payment loan. That's not the saying. But like, I want to dodge, right? And again, what does dodging look like? Let me put a visual into your brain. So when you get those letters that come in the mail, that on big letters, they say final notice, and you take those and you put them in the doom pile that you just pretend isn't there, and you just try to not look at, the doom pile. That is dodging our creditors. Now, when you get a call on your phone and it is from the bank, the whoever that, and they're calling and we go, ignore. That is dodging our creditors. And I always love to share this story. It's back in my former home group many, many, many years ago. There was a gentleman, it was before the meeting, and he picks up his phone and he answers it. And this is how he answers it. He goes, Boston Pizza Calgary, how can I help you? And I was like, what are you doing? You are not a Boston Pizza. You're a guy at a meeting. What? And I was like, buddy, what's that all about? Which is nosier than I normally am. I will gotta cop to that. And he's like, oh yeah, that's collections. And that, if I am trying to put on a persona, if I am pretending I own a chain restaurant, so I don't have to deal with people who I owe money, that is dodging our creditors. So do not do that. That's not how we're approaching it. So we approach it head on. We deal with the letters. We answer the phone calls. That's what we do. So telling them what we are trying to do, we make no bones about our drinking. So the first part is I got to tell them what I'm trying to do. So it's like that approach message. Hey, I'm a member of a 12-step fellowship. And I know that I've been avoiding you and dodging you, and I've been negligent of of making payments. I'm now in recovery and I'm trying to live a different way. And so that's how we begin to have that conversation. Now, it goes on to say that it says, telling them what we're trying to do, we make no bones about our drinking. They usually know it anyway, whether we think so or not. Now, I will say that most of us come into the rooms, and every person in our life has probably been insisting that we show up to whatever fellowship we're a part of. And yet, now this is, I'm sure none of you can relate to this, but showing up to a 12-step fellowship and utterly convinced whatever the manifestation is of our addiction, it's a secret. Nobody knew. Nobody knew. They had no idea. Now, if your like checking account looked a little like mine, which was ATM withdrawal, ATM withdrawal, ATM withdrawal. Now, if you're looking for a timestamp, it would actually be liquor store, liquor store, liquor store until about 2 in the morning when it closed. And then it is ATM withdrawal, ATM withdrawal, ATM withdrawal, because I'm getting some of the dry goods is what I'm doing at that hour. 3 a.m., give or take. Very little good happens at 3 a.m., just from my experience. Alrighty. So they know if there are people that can see your bank statements and see, and there's also a thing, I don't know what the, I think it's called kiting a check. Now, I know you lovely, law-abiding people would never have done this. But it's where you go to an ATM and you pretend that you deposited a check and then you take that money out, give them a blank envelope. They know. They know. Because did you know, I know this is a shock to all of us, but people that practice proper financial management aren't putting in fake checks at 3 in the morning at an ATM in the sketchy side of town. They're just not, I'm just saying it's given red flag, so they know, people know, it's not a big secret. So we don't gotta pretend. And then it goes on to say, nor are we afraid of disclosing our alcoholism on the theory that it may cause financial harm. And here's my experience. My harm is causing financial harm. Me not making the payments is causing financial harm. The drinking is really irrelevant. Because actually, I'll tell you the story in just a sec. But did you know the Visa, MasterCard, Bank of America, RBC, they don't care what you're doing on the weekends. They want their money back. That's what they want. They don't care. Wild. But I will say, so I'll read the next line and I'll dive into the story. Approached in this way, the most ruthless creditor will sometimes surprise us. Now, this is not my firsthand story, but I was with my ex, and we were in the throes of not a loving relationship, but our codependent, drug-addicted, alcoholic hostage situation. And he was going to treatment for, I don't know, like at that point, it's gotta have been over 12. Not with me. He was trying some self-improvement before he met me. I know how to pick him. We met under a bridge. Like a lady. Actually, before, because I'm not making him look so good. I mean, there's not a lot to dress up, but I also got to be transparent about me. I was also on a pass from the psych ward when we met under that bridge. So I'm not saying I was the greatest catch either. Let's be transparent about that. But I was with him and he was good. I see, yikes. Yeah, is that not true love? Is that, I don't read a lot of romance. Is that not like when they do romance novels? That's not the story. Cool. Whatever. I wonder why it didn't work out. Anywho, he called up Visa because he owed money to Visa. I don't know who gave him a credit card, but he owed them money, and he called them up and he was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be going to rehab." And Visa, who I don't think is the like hallmark of compassion and empathy and feelings, they were like, "Yeah, that's totally fine," and they halted his payments for the duration of the time that he was in treatment. And like I'm as surprised by that as you are. So it really is the most ruthless creditor will sometimes surprise us. And so uh, it says, arranging the best deal we can. We let these people know we're sorry. So I'm going to address sorry first. Now, I know I am a Canadian, and it's part of the stereotype. It's maple syrup, it's hockey, go sports, and it's sorry. But here's the thing. An amend, as we've discussed, and as I kind of gave a brief overview, an amend is far more than a sorry. It is not the end of the world if during the amends process a sorry comes out of our mouth, especially as a Canadian. Sorry. Listen, I will bump into an inanimate object and say, sorry, like it is, oh, and if you've ever been one of those people that over apologizes and then you have like an assertive friend that's like, you stop saying sorry. And then what comes out of your face? Sorry. Like, oh, it's just double down. I can't get out of that one. It's the worst. But an amend is to repair, to restore, to make right, to change. So we are letting these people, we are sorry that we are regretful for our actions. So it's not the end of the world if a sorry comes out. And the book is using the word sorry. But what I've found to be more impactful is instead of sorry, especially on a personal amends, is to say, I was wrong. That was wrong of me. You did not deserve that. That's far more impactful than sorry. Because, and I talk about this quite a lot of times when we're new to the fellowship, we're like, I can't make an amends. I've said sorry a million times. Sorry carries no weight. But the work that we're doing here is work of depth and weight. So it is not simply an apology because we are arranging the best deal we can. We let these people know that we are sorry. So we are going to arrange a deal. And you can do that. You can call up your creditors. Different places in the world, different states have different legislation. Not an expert on that, but you can call them and you can arrange a payment plan. And it is, I will say it is one of those things, because I was subbing for Jedi David on Friday, and we were covering the same thing. And I was remiss, Jedi. My nephew has an impressive Star Wars like collection of stuff, and I'm like, I was mid big book study. I'm like, what am I doing? I didn't grab a lightsaber or nothing. If I'm gonna be Jedi, I gotta have the lightsaber. What was I thinking? Could pop on the Boba Fett helmet. You know what I mean? I did it wrong. So, but I did want to make sure I tried to give voice to you and to say things that you would want to say. But now I got that stuck in my head. And so this is Jedi David saying it. I'm not saying it. So if you got a problem with it, you take it up with him. I'm just kidding. That is so mean. He's just had surgery, and I'm like, under the bus with you. uh, just a jerk. That's me. But he's saying what we're negotiating is the payment plan, the schedule, not the amount. And he was so adamant about that. It's stuck in my head. Now I can't get that little worm out. So you're all getting that piece of information. All right. But talking about arranging the best deal we can. One of the things that can be really important when we talk about addressing our amends is this idea that, like, who do I want to be? I want to be Scrooge McDuck. I mean, of course, he didn't want a giant with swimming pool full of money, but I want to be Scrooge McDuck, and I want to show up to the amends with this like bag full of money that I drop on the table, and I'm like, boom, amended, baby. I don't know if your early sobriety was a lot like mine. I was not ranking in the gold coins. That was not happening. And so quite often what I will need to do is show up to an amends with at least some of the money and a payment plan. And especially if we're owing like creditors. And so one of the things is when I owe money to family members, I want to Scrooge McDuck that bad boy. I want to pay it all off. I want to be debt free. Woo! Like I want to be done. And that's literally how my brain works. But with family, for people with whom for years I have been so inconsistent, there can be a lot of spiritual value in consistently making those payments. Now, some of the prep work that I might need to do for financial amends is I'm not an expert on finances. So it might be helpful to talk with somebody who is a financial planner. I have a sponsee, and she owed money to those payday loans, and the predatory interest rate was insane. And I'm like, dude, she could not get out of the debt. Like, it was impossible to pay down the principal. And so she spoke to a financial advisor who helped guide her through that process. And so there's that humility in to say, I don't always know the best way to handle it or to budget. I have a friend of mine that's like, Paige, do you budget based on vibes? Which I do. Uh, and accountants want money and dollars and numbers and not vibes. So I honor my limitations with that. But also, when I'm making an 8-step list, one of the things that can be really helpful is, if I owe money, is to put the amount of money that I owe next to the amends. And it helps give me an idea of what am I looking at. Because oftentimes, I know not you guys are always so good with your finances, and nobody here ever experiences money overwhelm, debt overwhelm, and overwhelm of any sort. You're all so grounded, it's wonderful. But this little crackhead, I get overwhelmed. And so it can be helpful to see how much money I owe and to get a ballpark of what am I paying down. Now, I remember talking about this, and Rob was like, oh, he gave it a name. I think you called it debt snowball. I haven't explained it yet. I just said, Rob, you called it a thing, and then looked at you to be like, yeah or no. And it's like, hey, you haven't described what you're talking about. So what can be really helpful is, when I owe financial amends, is to start with the smallest amount that I owe and pay off that as quickly as possible, and then move that money up and up and up so that I can build some momentum with that. And I genuinely don't know where I learned that or picked that up from. That was just a thing. I don't know, that came from my brain, not from my brain. Probably I definitely got somewhere else. And then Rob was like, in the chat one time, he's like, debt snowball. Like, so that's apparently a thing. Uh, so that can be really helpful to pay off the amount that we owe the least. And then when that's paid off, we take that money to the next financial amends, to the next, making payments to the people that we owe. So, so it says, our drinking has made us slow to pay. We must lose our fear of creditors, no matter how far we have to go, for we are liable to drink if we are afraid to face them. Now, this is important information. This is a warning. Now, the warnings that we see, like, we want to take note of them. But the warnings don't come out of nowhere. For a long time, I thought the warnings was like, whoa, okay, if I don't do that, like, then I'm going to drink again, or then I'm going to smoke crack again, or then I'm going to pop pills again, then I will relapse. But the reality is, the warning is my first step experience. And it is just a laser beam focused at parts of the book like this. My step one experience is that nothing less than a spiritual awakening, that I grow and that I deepen, and I will relapse. That's step one experience. So that warning didn't just come out of nowhere. That warning is a consistent, based off that step one experience. So if I don't deal with my financial amends, if I don't deal with my creditors, I will drink again. Now, it says we must lose our fear of them. It might take me a long time. Maybe there's debts I will never be able to fully financially repay, but I make the attempt. So one of the things too is, when we're talking about like financial amends, I like to joke about this. Do y'all know that they don't want your money? Because I'll get resentful. I'm like, oh, can you believe it? They want my money. Or if you've had any wages garnished because of, not paying taxes or child support, they're taking my money. Can you believe it? Now, I know nobody here's ever felt that way, but I've got some news. They're not taking your money. They don't want your money. They want their money back. Rude. Rude. When that was pointed out, I'm like, not cool, dude. Not cool. Also, there's a powerful shift that can happen when I approach money in a radically different way. If I approach money through the lens of it is not my money, but God's money. And I've worked with sponsees. I do a lot of work in regards to sex inventory. And because I'm so fun at parties, there are times where people have areas of their life that are especially difficult. Spoilers, finances being one of them. And there's been times I've worked with people, or work being one with them, or family, as in like their parenting roles being one of them. I've taken them through the sex inventory columns with the lens of their finances. And what happens when we do that is we develop a sane, sound financial ideal, which which does not look like a set amount for 401 contributions. It doesn't look like that. Like if you're like, girl, I got my calculator, I got my ruler, I got my spreadsheet. But listen, I am a sucker for a good spreadsheet. If you need spreadsheet help, you talk to Scott. He's the spreadsheet guy. I wish I was. That's not me. Scott's got you. But what we're looking at, at least what I'm looking at when I do that is, how do I treat money selfishly? How do I approach it through the lens of scarcity? How do I use it to try to fix, manage, control other people? How do I use it to give myself a sense of status? And when I find that I have this money ideal, this financial idea, well, an ideal in it of itself has no power. There is no power in an ideal. In fact, our book tells us that a mere code of morals, a better philosophy of life, were sufficient to overcome alcoholism. Many of us would have recovered long ago. So what I need to do is I need to take that ideal to the power. And so I take that ideal to prayer. I take that ideal to meditation and begin to have a daily experience with that. That's for me where the power is. And I say that as somebody who helps a lot of sponsees with a whole lot of sex ideals, with a whole lot of money ideals. And I say, if you type it out to me, I'm no longer typing it out, because listen, I do a lot. But if you type it out, I will put it on a pretty little thing that you will not print out and will not use ever again. But I will do that for you in the hopes that you do that. That's where the power is. That's where I take it to the power. Am I a financial expert? Absolutely not. But I will tell you, I did owe, after I graduated, which that's a whole story by itself, but I graduated university with $40,000 in student loan debt. And I know, and I'll just throw this out there, with a degree you could not pay me to use. And you're like, that's how degrees work, Paige. You get a degree and they pay you to use that degree. That's how that works. I don't want to do that, bad boy. I will say it's been very helpful with the Zoom and uploading the things and a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, but I don't know if it was 40 grand useful. And I owed 40 grand. And then at the time, I don't have a lot of income that comes in. I'm on disability. But that ability to really go after that loan, and I paid it off. I can't tell you how long ago that was, because I have no concept of time. I'm good with numbers. I used to be a math tutor at university. That should scare everyone. I was good at it too. I got algebra. Not right now. That's gone. But I'll come back. But and so there's a sense of freedom when I don't owe any money. Like that was such a powerful feeling. And did I owe amends? Yes, I owed financial amends to the Canadian Alberta government who issued me those student loans. Did I have to make that formal? No, they just wanted their money back. And I didn't mess. I was sober for the last part of university, most of it. And I'll tell you this experience now. This has this is just kind of some of my experience with money. Feel free to disregard it. I really like to grow spiritually. Like I love, man, I got a taste of this thing. And I don't want to miss what's on offer. For me, just don't drink, go to meetings. Man, that's got no interest, because I've experienced some of what's on offer and I want more. And the more that I experience, the more that I can help others. And so I've done a whole lot of spiritual seeking in my life, seeking in a whole variety of ways. And there's because I'm again so fun, I'll show up to David's house and be like, "You got a copy of the original manuscript? It's a pizza party, woo! Let's go read that." And I'll show up and oh God, I got my dictionary, and everyone was shocked that when I was out of town, I didn't pack my handy dandy copy of Lois Remembers. I'm as shocked as all of you, right? Shocking. I'm so fun, but. Um, with that, I like to do the religious holidays that are about like I'm gonna give something up, woo! So I was doing one of those, and I when I do that, I always like to add something to my prayer life, because what I try to give up is that which I'm turning to instead of God. And if I'm trying to give up something that I'm turning to instead of God, I need more of God. I need to deepen that connection. And one of the things that if sex is very troublesome, and I can extrapolate, if anything is very troublesome, we throw ourselves the harder into helping others. So I find an additional way to be of service. And this one year, it was probably like kind of like 2021, 2022. So like meeting a whole bunch of people from all over the world. But I can see that I like to numb out using social media, and I like to scroll when my brain is done. And I like to not pay attention, those Facebook reels. Oh, it's not even the good stuff. It's like TikTok was like cut, when you have the drugs that have been cut, it's like that one. I mean, no, it's not. It's completely different. I'm not making that reference. I saw some of the faces. And I knew that I didn't want to be using Facebook in the same way that I was using it, just mindlessly scrolling, but I still wanted to stay connected with people, so I didn't want to come off it. So what I did, now some of you can see the error of my ways already, was I was like, because I'm up against an algorithm here, guys. Anytime I saw an opportunity like a GoFundMe or a charity or whatever, a thing to give money to help somebody else, I gave money. And I will tell you, one, that algorithm is like, oh, you want to help orangutans from Australia? I'm like, I just want to scroll. Gosh, it was a friend of mine. It was like International Women's Day, and she on 3 separate posts about charity for women. And I'm like, I just wanted to doom scroll, But I did that, and the most incredible thing happened. I began to have a very, very different relationship with money. And I began to see how it really is not my money. It's God's money. See, what I mean by that is I should not be alive. I really, truly, truly mean I am somebody who should have died under that bridge where I met him years ago. I should not be here. I should not be alive. And here I am alive today. And my income is absolutely, without question, God's grace. And so it's not my money. And it's a story. It's a bit of, you guys might have heard of it. It's a bit of a parable, like a story to convey a lesson. And you might have heard of it in the rooms. And it's the story of this desperate alcoholic. And there was a desperate, desperate alcoholic, and he's beaten and he's broken, and he sees that like he does not want to do this again. And he says a prayer to God. And he says, God, if you get me sober, I will do anything. I will give you anything. And God appears. Hi, and God says, I've heard your prayer. If you want to get sober, all right, I will help you. And God snaps his fingers, and the guy is sober. And God says, all right, what do you got in your wallet? And the guy's like, I'm sorry, what? It's like, yeah. God's like, what do you got in your wallet? So you're like, what is this story? And the guy looks, he's got like maybe $300 or something like that. And God's like, I'll take that. And he's like, whoa, like I can't give you my money. Like I gotta pay for like gas. Like I gotta go to work tomorrow. And God's like, oh, you have a car. I'll take that too. And he's like, no, like I need that car. Didn't you hear me? Like I've got to go to work tomorrow. And God's like, right. Oh, so you've got a job. I'll take that too. And God's like, and the drunk's like, dude, like, what do you mean? You can't take I've got a wife. I've got kids. Like there's a mortgage. And God's like, oh, so you got a house. You got a wife. You got kids. I'll take those too. And out of sheer desperation, the alcoholic says, okay, take them on. And in that moment, the alcoholic is relieved of that emptiness and that loneliness and that hole within his soul. And the thought to drink is gone. And God then looks at the drunk, the alcoholic, just like me, and says, all right, here's your money. That money is no longer your money, it's my money. And you are to use it and you are to steward it to help me and my children, the people about you. You've got a car, that's no longer your car, that is my car. And you need to drive that in a way that honors me and honors the people around you, to be of service to the people around you. You got a job? Yeah, you don't work for Fred, an accountant. You don't work for that CEO. You work for me. And how you show up to that job is to be of service to me and the people about me and about you. And you got a house, that is not your house, that is my home. And I need you to treat that home as my home. You got a wife, I need you to treat her as mine, as my child, a beloved child of God. And those are not your kids, those are my kids. And to treat them and to honor them in that way. And see, when I talk about it's not their money, it's not my money, it's God's money. That's what I mean. And there's layers to this thing. There is depths to this thing. And you might think, Paige, that is the weirdest story you've told. And God bless you, you haven't been coming to this thing very long if you're thinking that's the weirdest story I've told. But what I will say is like that is a depth that we get to experience here. If I am willing to set right my wrongs and to make these financial amends. And so that sounds like we spoke about one paragraph for 40 minutes. That's about on par for how I do. There's not even two people. Like, I can't even blame it on somebody else. It's all my fault. Which, by the way, that's how amends go. It's my fault. That's amends. All right. So perhaps now I picked up on this when I was subbing for David, and David and I were hanging out. Perhaps. Now, if you are sponsoring others, what I would suggest is you take that word perhaps and you pop that right into your pocket. Because I guarantee you're working with others, you will have a sponsee that will say something like, but I met him in detox. It's true love. The blue of his grippy socks matches the blue of his eyes. You know, the brown of the decaf coffee, because they won't give you the real stuff in detox. It matches the brown of his hair. It's true love. It's meant to be. You know, like ooh. And how do we approach that? We'll just throw in perhaps dating while you are both unwell and unrecovered is not a good idea. Or, perhaps that area is one we owe an amends. Actually, my sponsees joke with me because they'll bring stuff to me, and I have a bad habit of saying wonderful. Like the running joke is they'll be like, Paige, I burnt down an orphanage. And I would say, wonderful. We'll have to make an amends. Like that's how I show up. But perhaps is really helpful when we're offering spiritual suggestions. So perhaps. Now, I know this doesn't apply to any of you law-abiding alcoholics, drug addicts, codependents, Al-Anons, love addicts, gamblers, overeaters. So glad you're here. You guys would never. I have a little. All right, so just a little, because that's how laws work. It's just a little broken, just little. Perhaps we have committed a criminal offense. Dun dun. I had the Law and Order tune in my head. Okay, perhaps we've committed a criminal offense, which might land us in jail if it were known to the authorities. I know you guys would never. It may be. So here are some examples of criminal offenses that I know none of you guys could relate to. Perhaps we may be short in our accounts and unable to make good. Now, I actually shared about this with you guys as well, where it's like I'm kind of weird because I really was not a shoplifter. I really wasn't. But almost everyone I've ever worked with, we had shoplifters. And here's the thing: you get sober, it gets worse. Don't raise your hand. This is not a court of law. But it's so common for you put down the booze, put down the drugs, and the fingers get a little sticky. It's a thing. I was not. But after the rush, I think now I'm like trying to remember. I shared some amends stories. I think that was last week. I won't tell it this week. Yeah, it was last week that I told that story about the doctor's office where I took that thing that I was going to use to kill myself, and I'm like, but I'm not a thief. I only had to make an amends for that. Uh, that's one of my best amends stories. Oh, it's so good. Uh, but yeah, that's common. Also, shorten in our expenses. Another thing that I genuinely have not done, but is so incredibly common and not spoken about, stealing from the seventh or stealing the seventh. My home group, or former home group, many years ago, we had a treasurer who also had a crack problem, which, what would happen is he would go on his crack benders and use the seventh to sort of supplement that, and then get back on track, go to work, try to use his paycheck to cover what and yeah, that happens. I mean, yeah, yeah, that happens. So that's an example of being short in our accounts and unable to make good. It says we've already admitted this in confidence to another person. So when we did that was in our step 5. We shared this stuff in our 5th step. So again, fearless and thorough in step 5, leaving nothing out. It says, so we have already admitted this in confidence to another person, but we are sure we would be imprisoned or lose our job if it were known. So that fear is holding us. Maybe it's only a petty offense such as padding our expense account. That's also known as fraud. Also, if you're wondering, I think it was called kiting checks, where you put the empty envelope in the ATM. Also fraud. Fraud. That's what that is. Is the fancy smancy, like technical sort of kind of legal name for it. Just throwing that out there. Just throwing that out there. Not as I would like to call it, a financial oopsie doopsies. A little whoopsie, a legal whoopsie daisies. That's not what the criminal system calls it. Whoopsies. No, they call it a crime. Lame. So, or not cool, I should say. All right, so padding the expense account. So lying about things that we, for work. Most of us have done that sort of thing. Again, if we're talking about criminal offenses, we would not do it. Yeah, embezzling. Scott's like, yeah, padding the expense account. Just a mild form of embezzlement. Just a casual, only on Tuesdays, Uh, I wasn't, and if you guys are wondering, I wasn't functional enough for white collar crime. That means getting like a place of employment where you'd have a collar. I wasn't functional enough. I wasn't functional enough for most crimes. It's like, oh, Paige, you didn't do a lot of illegal activities? Yeah, because I wasn't functional enough, that required, anywho. But man, let me tell you, I was a prolific bottle picker. Oh, I could get those bottles out of those. I was good at it, y'all. Oh, I was. And panhandler, you wouldn't know it, but I was a sad little thing, and I wasn't even trying. People would give me money just because my existence was depressing. Jenny, I'm not even kidding. I remember one day I was under the bridge and I was freezing because it's cold. And I was trying to sit in the sun one morning to wake up. Somebody stopped their car, gave me money. I wasn't even panhandling. I was just sad. Uh, just casual trauma. Oh, most of us have done that sort of thing. All right. Maybe we are divorced. What? An alcoholic? A drug addict? Having yeah, check kiting. That's what it's called. Divorce? An alcoholic? A drug addict? Not having a stable relationship. Again, if you're wondering, I have not been divorced because that requires paperwork. You've got to get married first. I wasn't functional enough to get married. My ex and I, common law, because all you need to do is not leave. That was something I was able to do. So yeah, not divorced. But we can relate to that. Maybe we were divorced and have remarried, but haven't kept up the alimony to number 1. She is indignant about it and has a warrant out for our arrest. These are common forms of this. That's a common form of trouble too. So I know that you guys would never, Never not pay somebody out of resentment. But that's just a thing that can happen. I know. So it's again giving us some examples. And if we relate to those, again, what I want us to know is that you are not alone. Oftentimes we come here and I think I'm the only one. I think I'm the only one that's had this experience, or I'm the alimony, child support, that sort of thing. I'm the only one that's ever not paid my bills, or I'm the only one that's ever shoplifted from Shoppers Drug Mart. That one's really common for some reason. In Canada, it's also Real Canadian Superstore that gets shoplifted from. But a Walmart's a pretty universal people are yoinking from. I'm getting the nods. Yeah. Like, yeah, if you're not alone. So we can make it right. You're not alone in that either. So it goes on to say, uh, although these reparations take innumerable forms. So the word reparation, again, that's to amend, to repair, to restore, to make right. And then innumerable is like too many to count. And not just because of my loosey goosey way with numbers and math. Like there's although there are so many different ways that we can make amends for criminal offenses, there are some general principles which we find guiding. So these principles that are guiding us and leading us. It says, reminding ourselves that we have decided to go to any lengths to find a spiritual experience. What? Wait a minute. Why are we throwing that in my face? What do you mean? And by the way, this is the second time they called me out for this. It into action. It's almost as though they have a deep inkling that we don't want to make amends. What? Oh, that is shocking. I know nobody here has ever been afraid of making amends. Man, I always joke that I'm going to make amends to my mom, and she'll call the SWAT team, and they'll I don't know what'll happen. As my mom, I just assume it'll always be the worst case scenario. It'll atomic bomb my whole life. And we were speaking about last week, 9 out of 10 cases, the unexpected happens. What is unexpected is that it goes well. So when did I decide? When did I decide to go to any lengths to find a spiritual experience? Well, we see this on page 58. On page 58, it presented two statements that we turned to questions and we asked ourselves, do I want what you have? And I want to be very clear, what do we have in 12-step recovery? What we have is nothing less than permanent, now there's a little asterisk on that permanent contented sobriety. That's what we have. Now, the permanency is contingent that I continue to do this work as a way of life, like my life depends on it, because it does. But permanent contented sobriety, that's what's on offer. Do I want that? If yes, then next question, am I willing to go to any lengths to get it? And we saw that and so at that moment, when we were going through the study, or when I work with my sponsees, I ask, are you willing to go to any lengths? And then I warn them that this is going to bite them in the butt. And here's where it's biting them in the butt for the second time, which is just rude. Rude that you would hold me to an agreement that I made? What sort of thinking is this? Not cool. And also that question that we saw on 58, I speak about how we see it on page 42, and we see it on page 90 and page 112 and page 147, I believe. We see it again and again and again. Am I willing to go to any lengths? And it is a reminder that anytime I take these actions out of or on or through the 12 steps, it is following through on the commitment that I made in step 3. In step 3, my will and my life do not get turned over. Nothing happens in step 3 but a decision. But every time I take action upon that decision, my will and my life gets turned over to God's care. I'm following through on the commitment that I made. That is what is happening here. So when I make these amends, especially the ones that I don't want to do, I am following through on the commitment that I made in the 3rd step. And then it says, we ask. Now, anytime in this book we ask, that is a prayer. So right here, we've got a prayer. Now, I know Mark Houston called them the 9-step prayers. For me, I feel like they're more 8-step prayers but it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter. That's what I'm telling you. I don't care what you call it. It's a prayer. And I talk about, for me, that 8 and 9 are intertwined in these pages. Because for me, 8 is about the list, but it is also about the ways in which we build that willingness. And prayer is a beautiful, powerful way to build willingness. And I promise you, this is a prayer for willingness. So we ask, it is a prayer. We ask that we be given strength and direction to do the right thing. I just want to talk about that for a second. Strength and direction to do the right thing. You see, I don't know about you, but I am somebody who, on my own power, I am riddled with fear. I am a meat sack of anxiety. Like that is who I am. Like I riddled with it. And there are a lot of times in life where I am afraid to do things. Like I'll tell you, like amends, terrified of amends, terrified of assertive, respectful communication, terrified of that. Did you know that conflict and communication are two different things? I just assumed, they were the same. There's a lot of inventory I had to write. But here's the thing. If you guys are familiar with the St. Francis prayer, it's found in the 12 and 12 in step 11. It talks about asking God, higher power, creator, spirit of the universe, to make me a channel. And so whenever I'm afraid to do something like an amends, like normal human being communication, what do I got to do? Well, I'm so scared to take that action. And so what I do is or at least for me, what I've got to do is I've got to get me out of the way. I let that strength and that direction and that power and that love that is not me flow through me. That's what I do. So it says, we ask that we be given strength and direction. It is not my strength. It is not my direction. It is strength and direction that will flow through me. We ask that we be given strength and direction to do the right thing, no matter what the personal consequences may be. We may lose our position or reputation or face jail, but we are willing. We have to be. We must not shrink at anything. And I'll tell you how I say this prayer. I say this prayer, God, I ask that I be given strength and direction to do the right thing, no matter what the personal consequences may be. Help me to be willing to not shrink at anything. And that's how I say that prayer. And I like to say that prayer on a daily basis, because there's a lot I want to shrink at. I want to be a little shrink wrap, a little cling film. I don't want to deal with it, but that prayer is, I'm accessing power. I'm building a relationship with power. And it says we must not shrink at anything. And the reason I must not shrink is because what is looming is the inevitable relapse. The inevitable relapse. Nothing less than a spiritual awakening. And I will drink again. I will smoke crack again. And I'll be honest with you guys, I have a ridiculous pain tolerance. I do. We don't need to test that theory. So don't be mean to me or punch me in the face, please. Do you see how good I am at respectful boundary setting? Please don't punch me. I'm so good at communication. But I'm somebody with high pain tolerance. So there have been times in my life and in my sobriety where I have been complacent. And I have been in a horrific amount of pain. And what I was living through, I wasn't going to drink, I was going to kill myself. And you see, I need nothing less than a spiritual experience that I grow and that I deepen. For the rest of my life, I get to grow, I get to deepen, I get to experience this more. And I will drink again, I will use again, or somebody like me, I will without question end my life. And 2 minutes left. So what I'll end on is, I know I'm joking about how I wasn't big on the shoplifting. I wasn't big on kiting checks, or I didn't have taxes to evade. That wasn't my crime. But I can't say I wasn't a thief. You see, I stole from people. Now, some of the literal things is I would steal drugs from my boyfriend and booze from other people. But that's community goods. Look at that. But what I would do is I would steal peace of mind. I would steal trust. I would steal sleep. I would steal peace. That's the stuff that I would steal. So even though, man, I wasn't shoplifting mascara, in my teenage years, uh, but I was stealing peace of mind, and I, think of what I put some of my family through. Like, yeah, I hurt the people that loved me the most. So what that paragraph is talking about is that I need to have the utmost level of willingness, any length, any length, any length. And then the paragraph that we're going to talk about next week, it is then going to match that with, but we have a responsibility to others in our life. And so that willingness is going to be paired with that consideration of others. And so that's what we'll talk about next week. And I hope you'll come. It's more fun if you guys are here. So I'll stop the recording and we can wrap it up with the Serenity Prayer.